Hi everybody, it's Precious Pioneer and welcome back to my YouTube channel, the channel where we talk about food, kindness, and entrepreneurship. We haven't really touched on food in a while, and so I really wanted to jump in and tell you guys why I decided to become a chef and how it's changed and evolved over time. So if you're interested in thinking about becoming a chef or a cook or a home baker or any of these different things, then I kind of want to touch into all the different pros and cons of that, and then what I really love about it, and then also how it's definitely changing the world over time. And I think that's kind of a remarkable sort of thing with quarantine. We're seeing for the very first time the hospitality industry and restaurants kind of plateau and kind of flatten out. So you're probably wondering if it's still worth getting into an industry like that, and so I really wanted to talk about that. But I don't want to sit here and just bore you guys with my story. So today we're actually going to be making blueberry muffins. We have some blueberries at the house that aren't too sweet, and so I thought it'd be really fun to turn them into a really great treat. If this sort of content really inspires you, then please go ahead and hit that subscribe button below. That would just really help to support me in the creation of these videos. But without further ado, let's get baking. Okay, so I'm going to search for an old recipe. You can go ahead and set your oven to 400 degrees. You can make 8 large muffins with this. I'm going to go ahead and gather the ingredients, and then I'll do a recall once I have them all together. But it's going to take about 25 minutes to cook and 15 minutes of prep time, so about 40 minutes altogether. You're going to need 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 3/4 cup of white sugar, half a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/3 cup of vegetable oil, 1 egg, 1/3 cup of milk, or more as needed, a cup of blueberries. For the crumble topping, you're going to need half a cup of white sugar, 1/4 cup of butter, cinnamon, and 1/3 cup of all-purpose flour. In this stage, I just mix all of the dry ingredients together, but let's jump into the story. When I was a kid, I knew that I always wanted to cook in some regard. I knew I wanted to feed people. That always kind of inspired me. In 2nd grade, people asked me, like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'm like, I'd like to work at Red Lobster. Obviously, that has grown and changed over time. I initially wanted to become a pastry chef. I was inspired by Buddy the Baker, from Cake Boss on TLC. And also, I was inspired by my mom. She always baked these really great treats for anybody who came into the house. And then also during Christmas time and during the holiday season, she'd make these really amazing dessert platters for all the neighbors. And then some, 3 blocks down, everybody was getting this really beautiful platter of different chocolates and bark and cookies and pastries and desserts. And I think that's what really inspired me at first. And when I first started working around 16, I knew I wanted to kind of work in restaurants and level up and learn as much as I could in each restaurant. So when I was 16, I started working at Subway, and then within each year, I kind of promoted myself and learned as much as I could, and then moved on to a higher class restaurant. So I started off working at every deli imaginable, and then I moved to like Panera, which is more fast casual, and then Olive Garden was my very first restaurant that I worked at, and I worked there my sophomore year of college. And eventually I grew to understand that I actually really like the culinary side of restaurants as well, and so I started to teach myself a little bit more about food and cuisine, not necessarily as a baker or pastry chef because that was my specialty, but I really wanted to learn a lot of different food in that regard. And so then I moved to an Italian steakhouse, and then I ironically moved back to a bakery position because it was actually an artisan bread position. So I was a professional artisan bread maker, and that was probably one of the most fun jobs that I've ever had. Definitely the most challenging because I had to get up at 4 a.m. and sometimes I'd be running really late. But it was a lot of fun to just wake up and have the kitchen to myself, to listen to music and to roll out bread dough. And I don't know, I was there really early before anybody came into the restaurant, and so that's something that just really inspired me at first. I've always really loved the restaurant industry. I majored in restaurant food service management in college, and so I knew that I wanted to open my own restaurant, but I wanted to learn how to do every single skill that it takes to run a restaurant. And so naturally, I thought I should try my hand at front of house and becoming a server. That's definitely put a new perspective. I've never really considered that before, but it's definitely a challenging job. I really prefer back of house. Even though I really love interacting with people, it's kind of like a double-edged sword there. But then I eventually became a pastry chef at a winery, and that's where I'm at today. Okay, so after I mixed all of the dry ingredients, I'm going to add the wet ingredients such as the oil, the egg, and then the milk. Notice I actually kind of did this wrong. You're supposed to always add the dry mixture to the wet mixture, but I was kind of distracted with all the filming, but disregard that. You want to add your dry ingredients slowly into your wet mixture and then mix it that way. This way works as well, and they did turn out really great at the end, but just for textural reasons, always add the dry to the wet. In this case, I made a mistake. I just wanted to disclaim that. But yeah. Start to fold and combine, but let's get back to the story. Originally, I really loved the whole Gordon Ramsay TV personality sort of thing. Even that show on Netflix called Chef's Table with all the amazing fine dining restaurants that are out there and the amazing chefs and minds that are behind those restaurants. If you haven't seen that show, I definitely recommend it. But I realized that I didn't really want to cook for the glory or the fame. You know, a lot of chefs do that, and if that's your thing, that's totally cool. I realized that deep down, the original reason why I wanted to start cooking was to help people. You know, I think that food is such an incredible resource that not everyone has access to, and I feel like as a chef, it was really my responsibility to kind of use food as a medium to make the world a better place. And so I always knew that I wanted to feed people. I just really didn't know how or why or what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I wanted to become a private chef or I wanted to work in a restaurant or if I wanted to do catering events or just become a baker. I just really didn't know. But I think as time continued on, I really wanted to get into advocacy, I suppose, and speak up for people who really just don't have access to the right amount of nutrients. And I think that food has kind of changed in a way that it's been capitalized in the sense that there's a diet fad and trending and all these different things that promotes false narratives about food, what food is, to make a quick buck on people who are really trying to evolve and change their lives. And so if I can do that as a chef and just give people really great food, you know, I think that'd make me happy. So you're going to mix this until it's well combined. If you follow the recipe, you're going to get a little bit of a crumbly texture. That's where you're going to continue to add a little bit of milk until you get the texture that you desire. What you're looking for is a consistency that's a little bit thicker than a pancake batter. So I'm going to continue to mix this, and then I'm going to add more milk. But I think food is absolutely incredible, and it highlights culture and brings people together, and honestly, that is my favorite part. But food waste is at an all-time high right now, and agricultural systems in America aren't the most sustainable and are currently falling apart. We even see famous chefs like Dan Barber starting initiatives to normalize local food and recognize that chefs need to be also farmers. And because high quality dishes start with seed and soil. And that's what inspires me. So despite Corona, this is where I see the food industry growing and becoming. And oftentimes people say rock bottom is the perfect time to start building. So I went ahead and incorporated all of the blueberries, careful to mix these extra gently. You don't want any of them to break with your mixing, so you're just gonna fold it just to incorporate it. And then I'm gonna go ahead and spray down the mini muffin tray, and then I'm gonna scoop about a tiny portion. I suppose you want it to be like maybe 3/4 of the way filled in each little cup of the batter. I think the biggest flaw when it comes to food is education. I realized in college that many people didn't really know much about food in general, and things like grocery shopping became really hard to do with new label policies of fat-free, sugar-free, organic, grass-fed. Not many people really know what that means, and we kind of tend to buy things that we're marketed towards. And so I decided to create a podcast show called Precious the Foodie, and that has been my most fun project that I have ever started. For this section, this is where I go ahead and create the cinnamon crumble topping. I did end up using a larger bowl because this one was ridiculously too small. As you can see, I'm kind of spilling it everywhere. But yeah, you want to get it into a crumbly texture. Mix it until it's very crumbly and fine. Once you're done with that, you're going to sprinkle that crumbly texture on the top of each muffin. You can be as generous as you'd like, and then you're going to stick your muffins in the 400-degree preset oven for about 20 to 25 minutes. Because I did mini muffins, they only need 20 minutes and they were done, but if you do have the regular size muffin tins, then that might take a little bit more time, and I would just check it on 20 minutes and then poke it and see, and then if it needs more time, then I would move it to 25 minutes. I think that these are turning out to be super, super cute. But Precious the Foodie Podcast is a food podcast designed to uplift, educate, and inspire. I interview guests from all over the world, giving them the platform to tell their story through the lenses of food. And I think making food personable, making food tangible for everybody is the best way to educate people, and that's what I really aspire to do as a chef. Look how cute this little muffin is. I think it looks like a little mushroom. My mom is so funny, oh my gosh. But yeah, that's why I want to become a chef, and I think it's a great field if you're thinking about it. Hi, I forgot to show video footage of me actually eating the muffins, but they were good, so I did end up eating them. But thank you guys so much for tuning in to this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with all your friends. But have a great rest of your day. Bye.